It has studied it?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So anyway, the production function can actually be expressed in this way. Now, since this is output, the other side we have to find the independent variables. Because production function is a technical relationship. The output is a function of inputs. Output depends on the inputs. So, what did we say? We said, what are the factors of production? We said land. We said labor. We said capital. And we said entrepreneurship. What else would we, if this quantity that we want has had some other factors apart from the factors of production? The combination of these factors of production are determined technically. So it's a technical relationship. So it means technology is also there. What else? Technology is there. We can just decide that we have so many other things and then close it out. In a situation where this kind of relationship is linear, we can also say that this Q is equal to A plus B X, where X represents all the factors, and this is the way B is the coefficient of the various proportions of each factor. So the X here is just representing all the factors of production. And the A is a constant, which just tells you the minimum before you add any of these mixtures of inputs. You might actually have a minimum that you can get from your plot of land, for example. So A plus B, and then this is a linear kind of relationship. And one important definition that we have been talking about here is that this relationship is for a particular time period. It's not a relationship that is everlasting. We are assuming that it's a particular time period at which time the technology is not changing. So we are making various assumptions in this discussion. So Q there stands for quantity, and what you have in brackets there are various inputs, which are factors of production, such as land, capital, labor, technology, and organization. Organization is the entrepreneurship there. So here the output is a function of inputs. As output becomes the dependent variable and inputs are the independent variables. It is a technical relation that connects factors used in the production function to the level of output. It's a technical relation. Now, what is very important is that that technical relationship does not state how much output of Q changes as a consequence of changes in various inputs. It's not saying that. It just describes a relationship. It doesn't tell us how Q will change, how output will change when you change the proportions of the inputs that are required. It doesn't. These variable inputs are just showing a relationship to the output. And in order to express the quantitative relation between inputs and outputs, production function sometimes is expressed in a linear, for example, mathematical equation such as y is equal to q is equal to a plus b brackets x. So what assumptions are we making when we are trying to present this technical relationship? We are assuming that it is for a specific period of time. We are assuming that the state of technology is fixed during this period of time, so we can calculate. Otherwise, if it is changing, it becomes difficult for you to express this kind of relationship. So we are assuming the technology is fixed. We are also assuming that the factors of production are divisible into units. You can divide them. But the third assumption we're making there is that you cannot increase the quantities. They are divisible. Whatever you have, you can, so labor, you can divide it into smaller portions or variable units. The capital, you can divide it into variable units. The land, you can divide it into variable units. The technology is the same, but these inputs you can divide them. So you can vary. But you cannot increase the overall inputs that you have. What we are saying is that assumption means that there is an inelastic supply of factors. Inelastic supply of factors. What do we mean by inelastic? It means they don't change in the short run period. You cannot change them during that small time period. You cannot change them. That's what we're trying to say. The factors are divisible, but there is an inelastic supply. It means during that time period, you cannot change them. Are we together so far? We are? Yes. Okay. Now, as business managers, how does this help us? Understanding the production function of your business, understanding the technical relationship between the output and outputs in your business. How does this become relevant for you to run a business? Well, it will help you to make short-term decisions, not long-term. Short-term decisions, you can make them. you can make decisions about what is the best output you want to achieve out of the available inputs. Remember, the available inputs have an inelastic supply in the short period. So which means that you can make decisions out of what you have at that particular time. You can make short-term decisions about what level of output you want to get for that short period of time. How much output you can produce. But you can also be able to make long-term decisions in as far as the production level. The short term is about the output. The long term will be about the production level. It can also help you to calculate the least cost combination of various factors in a given level of output. So you can decide that for this output, for this given level of output, you can calculate the least cost combination. Because each factor of production has a cost. So you might be able to say, okay, for this level of output, it requires me to combine these things in these different ways. This is what I'm gonna choose, depending on the cost. So the least cost combination of various inputs. So for example, if the price of one input falls, you know what to do. When the inputs are specified in physical units, for example, the production function helps you to estimate the output. So for example, the reason you can do the least combination, the least cost combination, is because when these inputs are specified physically, you may find a situation where, for example, different combinations of inputs give you the same level of output, for example. You combine these inputs in different ways, but they give you the same output, which now leaves you with the alternative in terms of how much does each one cost, each combination. How does each combination cost? Because different combinations give you the same level of output. Now you have to find what is the least cost. That's how it helps you to choose the least cost, because you know that these various combinations, at the end of the day, they give you the same output. So your management decision becomes how much does each combination cost. So you can choose the least cost one. The production function can also, because you know the combinations giving you the same output, it actually implies that the production function gives you an idea of how you can substitute one input for another without altering the total output. So it gives you that liberty to know how you can substitute one for the other without damaging the output. So using prices, knowing the cost of each will help you determine which is the least cost combination. I'm trying just to explain what I've already said. How does it enable you to choose the least cost? Is what I've just explained. But do we have challenges? We do have challenges. This particular production function emphasizes on two outputs, so two inputs, which is labor and capital. Land and capital as fixed, labor being flexible or variable. So it's two inputs and one output. For example, capital and labor. There is also it assumes technology is fixed, which is not possible in the real world. These are some of the challenges of this function. It assumes technology is fixed. It assumes, number two, it assumes that there is perfect competition in the market, which is rare, of course, in the real world. And the other one is that it assumes a smooth production process. It doesn't take into account disruptions in production. In the real world, you always have disruptions in production in these kinds of activities. So the study of production function also is based on the assumption that the technical know-how is given, the technology is given. If the technology goes under change, the production function will also change. The production function we're also assuming is that it is concerned with a given period of time. Different periods of time have different types of production functions. Now, there are several applications that we can draw from this, or the study of production functions gives rise to a lot of economic concepts that we study. And these are things such as economies of scale, things like diminishing returns to scale, law of variable proportions. All these things we learn from studying the production function. So the issue about economies of scale. What do we learn from economies of scale? Economies of scale, or returns to scale, or returns of scale, economies of scale, or returns to scale, refer to these production functions, where we are talking about that you get more returns when you expand, when you produce at a big scale. So this economic concept about returns of scale, or economies of scale, refers to what you benefit by going big. So I can give you one example. You want to go into poultry production. So let's say you go into a business where you are producing broilers, chickens for meat. You have maybe 1 hectare of land, and you build, for example, 5 sheds on it, and a fence. Now you decide that you are gonna raise chickens there. So you say, okay, I will at each moment I will have 1,000 chickens, and you have 5 sheds, which means in each shed there are 200 chickens. But each shed can take, the capacity of each shed is 500. Now you decide that you will start with 200 in each shed. So the 5 sheds gives you 1,000 chickens at a particular time. Now you need a manager or a supervisor, and you have 1,000 chickens. You need a supervisor. Each shed you need 2 employees. So you have 10. And then you have a manager. And then you also say, I need watchmen. So you have 2 watchmen. Now, supposing for you to produce these chickens, 1,000 chickens, the cost of labor alone, forget about, let's assume the shares did not cost you anything. So let's just say it is the labor. Now, let's say you are a manager, you are 10 workers, and you are 2 watchmen, they cost you on average, let's say 50,000. That will tell you how much each chicken is costing you. For 50,000 kwacha, you are producing 1,000 chickens. So each chicken is costing you 50 kwacha. Right? Now, supposing you say, but the capacity of each shed is 500, and I'm only giving 200. What if I make sure I keep 300 in each quarter? So 300 times 5, that means now you can have 1,500 chickens. But the cost of labor is still the same. You still need one manager, you still need 2 watchmen, you still need 10 workers, 2 in each quarter. The difference is you will not pay more because now they are looking after more chickens in that quarter. So by going up in scale, now your cost per chicken is less. 15 into this, that's 3, 45, right? Now it's costing you 34 kwacha for each chicken. So you have moved away from 50 per chicken to 34 per chicken. What does that tell you? Your profit margins are improving. Supposing you go further and say, okay, I will make sure that each quarter has 400 chickens. So 5 will give you 2,000 chickens. But the cost is still 50. You still pay 50,000 as labor. That's your manager, your workers, and your watchmen. So now you have 50,000 over 2,000 chickens. So it will cost you 25 kwacha. So the economies of scale is telling you that you are getting better and better. Because some of these costs are fixed. They are not variable. And we have not looked at the variables here. This example is telling you about when other costs are fixed. The scaling up is helping you. You are having economies of scale. You are gaining because of scales, of scaling up. In real life, of course, you know that when you are putting up more and more chickens in your 5 quarters, you will spend more on variable costs, which is a fee. This fee. But at least the fixed cost as a total component of your total cost is going down per chicken as you increase product output. So that's the concept of economies of scale in production. That's in a simple way, that's how I can explain. Now, because we'll also be talking about the cost function, where we will also be looking at the different types of costs, the variable costs, the fixed costs, and the marginal costs, and all that. Here, we can also talk about marginal returns, marginal benefits. If you add one more input, how much output do you increase? So the issue of, for example, you have 3 workers, they are producing 3 bags. When you add another person, another worker, maybe 4, they start producing 5 bags. So by employing 1, you have added your output by 2 more bags. And so on and so on. You can, and until you reach a point where adding more doesn't give you any much benefit. And that is what we call the law of diminishing returns scale. That when you add more and more of each factor, it gives you less and less of returns scale. Initially, you get an increase. Later on, that increase starts, that benefit starts dropping down. That's the law of diminishing returns scale. Here it was more of increasing returns scale. So there are several applications that we can use when we are studying production functions, these technical relationships. That speak favorably to a business executive or a manager to know. So usually when we study this, we, just for the sake of being able to explain, we keep these other inputs constant so we can study what we are gaining by changing one output, changing one variable output. So we keep the others fixed and one is left variable. Even when you do that, you still assume that the state of technology is not changing. The state of technology still remains the same. So only one factor is being changed. The others remain fixed. That gives you a problem. Because in real life, this is just for study. In real life, a lot of factors change. But for us to be able to make meaningful estimates, to build up meaningful relationships, it is important that sometimes we do these assumptions. Okay. So far, is there any question? Is there anything that I need to, whether it is law of returns to scale, or diminishing returns to scale, or marginal returns to scale, anything. So everything is fine, right? Good. In the notes that I have, you be able to see a lot of what I have just talked about. Okay. One thing, the other assumption that I made, I think, which I need to make a mention of, is that we are assuming that the market, there's a perfect competition in the market. We know that is always not the case. For example, issues of substitutes. We say that our production function shows that you can substitute one input for the other, which is sometimes a problem. We should be able to challenge that. Sometimes it's not, that assumption is actually not possible in all the cases. You have imperfect substitution sometimes occurring, where you cannot easily change one input and substitute with another, just because this particular input is more expensive, or it has become more expensive, and therefore you say, okay, fertilizer has become more expensive, so I will substitute capital with fertilizer, or I'll just make sure that I buy a better high yielding plant than what I had, so that will take care of me leaving out some fertilizer, for example. Just as an example. Or labor has become expensive, and therefore maybe I'll just go and buy tractors. I don't need labor. You will still see that it's not always possible for certain operations that you can easily just, because one factor has become expensive, you go for what is cheaper. Or maybe because one factor has become cheap, you cannot just move to and have it and leave the others out. No, the technology sometimes is so, it determines what kind of substitution you can make. So sometimes it's dependent on the available technology, not your business decision, not necessarily your business choices, but what does the technology. Sometimes the business decisions are limited by technological requirements of your production process. So it's not as easy as we sometimes sound in discussing these issues and the application of these issues. So what we will do is, this study is big. This study about production functions, it runs deep. What we'll probably do is we'll look at, for us to, in order to understand the holistic way of all these relationships, we need to quickly move and study the cost function as well, so that we have both the production function and cost function, and see how we combine this into a meaningful discussion about production decisions that are made by businesses. Once we are able to have both production and cost utilities in one roof.